Hey, in this video today I'm going to compare the Charlotte's Web franchise to the Animal Farm franchise. In both cases you have only two movies. In both cases you started off with a book. In the case of Charlotte's Web, you had a animated version that came out in 1973 and then a live action movie that came out in 2006. In the case of Animal Farm, there was an animated film that came out in the 1950s and then a live action version in 1999. Now, when it comes to the highest Rotten Tomatoes score for each franchise, Charlotte's Web, the highest score is 79% for the 1973 version. In the case of Animal Farm, the highest score is 69% for the 1950s version, so Charlotte's Web wins this round. Then we look at the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score for each franchise. You have 76% for the 2006 version of Charlotte's Web, which is still a good score. That's still certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Whereas of Animal Farm, the lowest is a 38% for the 1999 movie. Charlotte's Web wins again. Then when we look at the average score for each franchise, with Charlotte's Web you have an average of 77, and with Animal Farm you have an average of 56. 69 plus 38 would be 107. Divided by 2, that's 53, actually 53.5. So Charlotte's Web wins again. Then when we look at how much of a disparity is there between the lowest and highest score, in the case of Charlotte's Web, wow, really small disparity. Only a disparity of 3, whereas of Animal Farm, a disparity of 31. So Charlotte's Web again wins. Then when we look at my personal opinion, which franchise do I prefer? This one's pretty easy for me. I'm definitely going to say Charlotte's Web in this case. When it comes to Animal Farm, I like the version from the 1950s. When it comes to a 1999 film, I think this one really has good things about it, sure, but it doesn't, at the end of the day, understand what made George Orwell's novel work, and that is subtlety. Yeah, when you read the book, you can tell that the pigs are communist. You realize what George Orwell is trying to say with the book. The allegory isn't too terribly well hidden, but still there's more subtlety. In the case of George Orwell's book, you don't feel like he's hitting you over the head with a brick so you understand the message. No, he's trusting the readers are smart enough to figure out what he's trying to say, what all the symbolism means. In the case of the 1999 movie, the filmmakers felt the need to just hold the audience's hand. So in that case, you have a minor character from the book, this dog named Jessie, who is promoted to being the main character. What I mean is that she's narrating the whole time what's going on. So she represents the audience's perspective on the events that we're seeing on screen. So she plays a much bigger role than she did in the book, where she wasn't really very important other than the fact that it was mentioned she gave birth to the dogs that eventually became Napoleon's guards. In the movie, the 1999 film specifically, she has a much bigger role. And I don't like that because it just makes the point of the story way too obvious. So therefore it feels like the filmmakers aren't trusting the audience. They don't think that people are smart enough to figure out on their own the point of the story. So we need to make it super obvious. We gotta hold the audience's hand and just make sure that they get it. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are good performances in here. I think, and the story overall still works. I don't think the visuals are all that bad. I think that a lot of the characters are done well, but that specifically does bother me, to be honest. In the case of Charlotte's Web, I mean, I like both adaptations of the story. I don't really have a lot of problems, frankly, with either version. So that's why it's pretty obvious for me that Charlotte's Web wins this whole debate. It was already going to win regardless of my personal opinion because it already won the first 4 rounds out of the 5. but it's pretty obvious to me I like Charlotte's Web more because there isn't that one thing that stands out that immediately makes me unhappy. There's not something that I immediately look at and go, yeah, I don't like that. Whereas there is something that I don't like about one of the adaptations of Animal Farm. It's unfortunate, frankly, because I think there's a lot of things that do actually work about the 1999 movie. There's some pretty well known actors in here, actually. But that'll be it for this video.